What's up, YouTube fam? It's Baby from the Zen Doc here. I hope everyone is doing well. It's good to see you. I'm a mixed media artist and I love to share tutorials and document my process in the hopes of inspiring other artists out there. And if you're new here, welcome to my channel. If you're not, welcome back. If you're not subscribed, I hope that you will subscribe. Anyway, getting into the meat of today's video, I will be walking you through my process for a new sculpture, and so I'm just really excited to get started. I've got a piece of flexible wire mesh here. I've got my canvas, a staple gun and a hot glue gun and a scissors, and I am going to begin by stapling the wire mesh to my canvas, and let's get into it, shall we? So I've stapled the canvas to the wire mesh on both lengths and I've left those two ends open. My next step is to work with the wire mesh, mold it into the shape of the sculpture that I want, and staple those two ends to the canvas as well. Actually, I might just go off and staple right now, just because if I work on the shape that I want, I can't turn it over and staple. That would destroy the shape. So it just makes sense to go ahead and staple first, but that's what you're going to be seeing me doing as per next steps. So I have worked on the base frame for my sculpture. This is what it's looking like at the moment. I used the hot glue gun to glue down the wire mesh to the canvas in key places that would assist maintaining that shape. And so my next step now is to use those plaster bandages to cover up the wire mesh. This will reinforce just the strength of the wire mesh because it's really flexible, and once this gets dry, it starts to get a little hard, and then I will be able to add my joint compound paste. And so my very next step right now is to cover the entire piece with a layer of plaster bandages. I will be doing that by cutting strips of the plaster bandages and using a wet brush to smoothen the plaster bandage over the wire mesh. So let's get back into it. So the sculpture has been completely covered in a layer of plaster bandages. It's still super wet, but here's what it looks like at the moment. And my next step now is to apply layers of my joint compound paste. This usually takes place over several days. Usually it takes me about 1 to 2 weeks to get the desired amount of layers that I'm looking for in a sculpture. And as you can guess, I will not be recording every step of that process because it's pretty much me doing the same thing over and over. But I'll share some of that today. I've got this leftover texture paste from a previous project. Honestly, I didn't mix it really well, so it's quite chunky and it's starting to dry out, but I do not want to waste it. So I'm just gonna rehydrate it a little bit with some water, mix it up again. Hopefully I can break out the chunks with my spatula or my palette knife, I mean. But anyway, I'm going to use that to start off, and then we'll mix more and we'll just continue to build up the layers from there. So let's get back to it. This is also a really nice tip. If you find that your texture paste is starting to dry out, which happens when you do expose it to air, you can always add more water. I like to do that when I'm working, or when I'm done working, I'll spritz a little bit of water and cover it up just so it remains adequately moist. So just sharing. As I was working on the sculpture, I realized that I wasn't in love with the initial shape that I had created. And so I cut up 2 small strips of wire mesh and glued that to the sculpture just to redefine the shape a little bit into something that I preferred. And that's what you see me doing here. And this is also a tip for you as well. If you don't like the shape, change it as soon as you can, because you don't want to waste too many products before you realize you don't like what you're creating. It's getting a little too dark to film, so I kind of just wanted to show you the process that I have made so far. And this is what it's looking like right now. I've added more volume in 2 areas and I'm feeling a lot better about it. So I will continue building up layers with joint compound and filling in areas that I feel like might need a little bit more volume, but we don't get a lot of sunlight these days, so a ton of these may be happening off camera. So I kind of just wanted to chat with you on what my next steps will be. But I will check in again in the coming days, but mostly I will just be adding layers of my joint compound paste. But yeah, I'll see you again soon. Bye. I'm at a point with this sculpture where it is ready to be sanded. We're getting to the finishing point, and quite frankly, this is not a piece that I want to be smooth. So the sanding that's going to happen today is going to be quite light as opposed to my typical sanding. And that's because I do want to keep this a little bit rough. So all I'm going to do by way of sanding would be really to get rid of the very obvious bumps. And so we're just going to get started on that, and we'll check back in once we're done sanding. So we're done sanding and I'm ready to paint. This is one of those pieces where I will be painting with coffee. And I have my coffee mixture in this bowl. It's really just espresso and a little bit of hot water. And I also have some black acrylic, and I will be using both. The purpose of the black acrylic is to create additional depth. So it's just going to work together with the coffee, and hopefully this whole piece comes out in the way that I have it in my mind. Anyway, I'm going to get right into painting, and the next time you see this piece as a whole should be the reveal. Keep in mind that this part of this process, the final part of this process, will be spraying with a matte spray varnish, which I may or may not film given whenever it's fully dry. And when I do actually apply the spray, sometimes I might just do it outside, so I may not film that part, but you always want to protect your work with a varnish, so just keep that in mind. But let's get into it. And this is how it came out. So this piece is called Holding It Together, and it symbolizes that universal experience of trying to hold yourself together through trials and tribulations when you're feeling beat down or run down. I stuck on plaster bandages as a symbolism of healing and the journey of that. And so I understand if this piece isn't necessarily for everyone, because it is an expressive piece of art for me. It's one where I convey emotions. But if you're a lover of organic modern pieces, pieces that patina, or love that aged distressed look, then this is for you. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments. As always, all of the materials and links are left in the description box, so if you have any questions, make sure to look there. I had so much fun putting this together, and I will see you next time. Bye.